Our next reader's poems have been published in Poetry, Michigan Quarterly Review, Bloomsbury Review, and New England Review, among others. His essays and reviews have appeared in Tri-Quarterly, Kenyon Review, and Brevity. In 2004, he won the Tia Chucha Press Chapbook Contest for his chapbook 30 Seconds. He was a member of the 1996 Chicago Slam team and is a board member and past board president of the Guild Literary Complex. Please put your hands together for Mike Puican.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out on a night like this when you could be home watching the State of the Union address. Thank you. One of the things that people say about poetry is its use of metaphor. They identify poetry in its use of metaphor. And don't get me wrong, I love metaphor. But sometimes it can be a little overdone. Sometimes a poet can find a metaphor and then sort of stop. So this poem that I'm going to read argues that case. And it takes place in a courtroom, a scene in a courtroom. The title is "The Lawyer Objects to Metaphoric Language." Show me a fireball of desire, a current of wild horses, the unquenched thirst of stone lions. Where is the evidence that stars rise from a watery grave, that fish swim through the sleep of school children? The judge looks down at her watch. She thinks of her lover's body touched by the morning sun. She could use a cigarette. Suddenly, a lion enters the courtroom. The lawyer's body is lodged between the big cat's teeth. Silence descends upon the courtroom as he disappears into the darkness. "Fools," he cries out, "your language, it's not dangerous enough." So, I'm going to try to keep the language dangerous enough. This is called Drying the Dishes. My mother, who is washing the dishes, places another plate in the drying rack. It's still dirty. She says, "When you're done drying, you can rest. Both of us can rest." My father, who is also dead, sits in a chair, newspapers and clothes strewn around the room. He puts his hand on my arm and says, "Let's not get up today." This is called Somniloquy. A somniloquy is a speech that you give while you're asleep. Each morning my father disappeared like the moon, then returned in time for prayers before bed. The soul reaches out to touch its wildness, just as St. Thomas reaches out to touch Christ's wounds. Here is a priest rubbing oil on my forehead. He blesses me as priest, prophet, and king. Now I am 5 and sitting in dirt. Now I'm in the kitchen taking apart the toaster. Then one day I ask myself, am I really the change, driving 20 miles each workday before dawn? Choirs of angels appear in my head as the elevator door opens to my father's nursing room floor. Here is my dad teaching me to change a water pump. He holds the water pump, I tighten the bolts. The first chill of winter enters the garage. Yesterday I used a sawzall to open a wall. I worked slowly so nails didn't pop through the drywall. Today at my window I watch believers file into Sunday Mass. I watch the snow fall straight down in this rented room. When I wake, he holds me. I'm going to shift gears. He said metaphorically. First, before I read the poem, how many people have gotten a ticket for a moving traffic violation? How many people, in order to avoid points on their record, went through a 4-hour driver's training course? How many people got another traffic violation within a year of getting that ticket and had to take 8 hours of driver's training? I was ready to explode. The thing that saved me was I wrote down lines from the actual training that I thought I'd use in a poem someday. And this is the poem. It's called Driver's Education. Somebody had a good time at the Christmas party. Now the family of 4 will never make it to Grandma's. How many times are they going to make us watch this? The cop had seen it all before. I sat in his cruiser listening to his pen scratch out my ticket, his stomach gurgling a meal of scrambled eggs and Maalox. It's not getting stopped I'm pissed off about. It's that I said thank you when he handed me the ticket. As I did when my lawyer handed me the custody ruling. He said the judge was having a bad day. Some people drive the same way for years, then look up, and suddenly they're pulled over. On the way home, I hear they finally caught the heiress's killer. The detective said after 30 years, clues were still around. I searched for the reasons the marriage failed. A thoughtless year or two, hard feelings over the right colors for the nursery. The guy downstairs jokes about his wife's driving, the time she backed over the groceries, forgot to pull a parking brake and rolled over someone's Harley. She laughs hard along with the rest of us. The hazards are everywhere. If you dangle your hand over the steering wheel, the airbag can force your fist into your face.
Oh, God.
It's not enough to prevent most accidents. You have to prevent them all. The killer waits in jail for a court date. At night, he sings My Way at the top of his lungs. Who's going to stop him? Who's going to stop the couple downstairs? An hour ago, the entire neighborhood heard them arguing in the kitchen. Now she cries out she's coming. Remember, the yellow lines are merely symbolic. They don't stop anybody from doing anything. So I spend a lot of time writing in coffee shops. I love coffee shops, especially the ones that have got the floor-to-ceiling windows. You just watch the world and sip your coffee. It's great. I have learned that even if I don't have a single idea when I sit down, even if I say I've got nothing, if I wait long enough, things happen. This poem is called Man Digging a Sidewalk. All morning at a busy intersection, under a large elm, a young man with thick, short arms digs up a sidewalk. He walks steadily, at his own pace. All morning I watch him and the elm's leaves, turned yellow, edged now with brown. A teenager steps past the young man and over the mounds of dirt. She leads her dog, a chihuahua that is dressed as a honeybee. The morning's light pours into the trench and over the girl and her dog. As they climb another mound of dirt, the dog turns to me and says, "Don't fuck with me. I'm capable of anything. I am boundless." These are the early days of autumn. Love rises, the mind soars. Let our bodies keep watch over the work. So this is my last poem. I'd like to thank Andrew and Eden for being great hosts. I'd like to thank Tuesday Funk for being one of the coolest and most eclectic reading series in Chicago. And they've been around, what is it, 124 years? Wow. So this last poem is completely appropriate for this weather. Mars appears above a frozen lake. A jet's trail lines the sky like a closed eye. A young boy straightens thick, fat fingers to show what he is to become. 5. Another in a bright yellow jacket walks across the ice. Someone calls him back from beyond the breakwater. This evening, my father appears in the melting snow of a cornfield. I see him now, blooming from my face. A red fox crosses the mud. A crack bursts from the ice. Something puts its hands over my ears and says, I am late May, burning through Manitoba. I am a bonfire, blazing in the cold fog. Something puts its hands over my ears and says, listen. Thank you very much.